Hello there and welcome back to my channel. Or if you are new here, hello and welcome. My name is Nesli and I'm a pattern maker. I'm so glad that you're here today because we're going to be tackling a little project that's both exciting and a little more challenging. The Vanity Bag. This pattern is a part of three-part series covering a makeup bag, vanity bag and hair tool bag, all available as a bundle and also separately in my shop. While the makeup bag is a great beginner-friendly project, the vanity bag steps things up a notch. It involves techniques like sewing and bias binding, so it makes a rewarding challenge for those who looking to expand their skills. And this bag has three sizes: large, medium, and small. We are going to be doing medium size for this video. In this tutorial, we'll go step by step from printing and assembling your pattern to sewing up this spacious and very practical bag, organizing all of your essentials. Whether you are confident with your sewing or ready for learning something new, this project is for you. And I'll guide you through all of the steps to help you achieve a professional finish. So grab your fabric, get your pattern, and let's dive into this exciting project.
Open your file with Adobe Acrobat Reader. This is a free application and you can download it pretty easily with a quick Google search. First, click Layers icon. And if you cannot locate it, simply go to View, Show Hide, Side Panels, and there it is. This Always Check layer should always be selected. This layer is where all the necessary information is, such as print test square, names of the pieces, and connection markings. And as you can see, there are multiple sizes on top of each other, making it really difficult to detect which one is which. Let's say you are a size medium, so unselect all the other sizes from this list here, leaving only the medium size visible. To print, select actual size option as the other ones won't give you the correct measurements. To test if our print is in the right measurements, we have a test square. One is 5 by 5 in centimeters, other is 2 by 2 in inches. Measure in the unit of measurement you are using. If they match, then you are good to go. These little triangles and quarter circles help you to match the pieces correctly. Each quarter circle includes a letter and a number. Match the quarter circles with the same letter and number to form a full circle with perfect alignment. We don't need to connect these three pages. All patterns are inside of a dash box. Cut one side of the overlapping pages and leave the other side intact for connecting. Align the triangles and the matching quarter circle markers. To ensure accurate assembly, you can use tape or glue, whichever you prefer. And for the final step of assembly, simply cut along the outer 1 cm seam allowance line. All pattern pieces include seam allowances, so you don't have to add any. You'll need wadding, lining, main fabric, bias tape. When unfolded, it should be 4 cm wide. Zippers and matching thread. Place your vanity bag pattern pieces on your wadding. Cut a rectangle that's 5 cm larger than your pattern pieces on each side. This extra margin is essential because the fabric tends to shrink slightly after quilting. Cut your main fabric to the same size as the wadding. Using the selvage edge as a guide, draw a line down the center of the fabric parallel to the edges. Then pin them together in a few spots to keep them secure. I set my quilting foot to create 3 cm spacing between each stitch line. Start by stitching along the drawn center line. Once you finish it, use the quilting foot to guide you as you create parallel stitch lines evenly across the fabric. If you don't have a quilting foot, don't worry. Simply mark parallel lines on your fabric at your preferred intervals using a washable or erasable fabric pen, and follow those lines with your stitches. Now that our fabric is prepped, it is time to start cutting out your pattern pieces. Place your pattern pieces onto the quilted rectangle. Make sure the notches on each edge align with the stitch lines on the fabric. The empty space you see on the fabric is reserved for cutting the top and bottom piece one more time, as we need two of them. Once everything is aligned, carefully cut around the patterns. Make sure you don't forget to snip all the notches. These will help guide your assembly later, so take your time to make them accurate. I'm using an erasable fabric pen to mark the notches so they are easier to see on camera. After cutting your quilted fabric, you might notice the edges lifting or separating slightly. To secure these and prevent the cut stitching from unraveling further, sew a basting stitch very close to the edge of each pattern piece. This will help keep everything in place and make the assembly process smoother. After cutting out the pattern pieces from the lining fabric, mark all the notches again with the same pen. Since the lining looks the same on both sides, I'm writing back on the wrong side to avoid confusion. The list of all the pieces you need to cut is included in the instruction file. If you are using a continuous zipper like me, I'll show you how to add the zipper pull. Otherwise, you can find the zipper lengths for both the bag and the pocket in the table in the instructions. Bring your top and bottom side bands with their right sides facing up. Cut the zipper slightly longer than the opening. Separate the teeth a little at one end and trim one side slightly shorter. Insert the pointed end of the zipper pull onto the longer side of the teeth first. Sliding it in until it reaches the shorter side. Then align the shorter side into the second slot of the pull. Once both sides are secured, gently pull the zipper pull forward while holding the teeth firmly to close the zipper. Do the same thing for the other end of the zipper. You can either use a continuous zipper like me, but if you want to use ready-to-use zippers, you can find the required zipper lengths for all the sizes in the table in the instruction file. I'll sew both ends to prevent it from opening. Now, we'll attach the zipper to the main fabric. Fold the zipper in half and cut a small notch on each side at the fold. These notches will align with the notches on the edges of the main fabric. With your quilted main fabric right side up, open up your zipper and place your zipper right side down, aligning the edge of the zipper to the edge of your quilted fabric. Pin it in place. Now place the other side of the zipper to the opposite edge of the bag. Mesh the notches and pin everything in place. To align the edges of two panels, mark where the other edge of the zipper ends. Place the marking to the other piece's edges. After you sew the zipper to both of your edges, sides of the quilted main fabric should align like this. Now, sew it all the way. Use a zipper foot and sew as close to the zipper teeth as possible. Now let's sew the lining. Place your lining right side down. Sew the right sides of your main quilted fabric and lining should face each other, sandwiching the zipper in the middle. Match all 3 notches on the edge. Pin it in place for both of the panels and sew it straight as close as possible to the zipper teeth again. Now we'll do top stitching for both panels close to the zipper edge. When top stitching, gather all seam allowances under the main fabric and sew all the way through from the right side of the main fabric. Top edges of both the lining and the main fabric should face the same direction. Do it for both sides. Bring together all the notches along the outer edges. Pin the main fabric and the lining together. At this point, if the zipper pull is outside the rectangle, you must put it inside the rectangle. Otherwise, you cannot use your zipper. Sew along the entire perimeter. If your zipper is longer than necessary, cut the excess part. Now let's sew the back piece. You need to place the back piece so that its notches are above and below, not on the edge where you will sew now. First, let's sew the piece with the main fabric. To do this, place them together with their right sides touching so that one edge of the back piece coincides with the one side of the zippered rectangle. Then turn it, so the back side is facing up. This time, let's sew the lining back piece. Again, place the pieces on top of each other with their right sides facing and sew them 1 cm from the edge. Now let's sew the other side. Align only the edge of the main fabric back piece with the other edge of the zippered rectangle. Their right sides should be facing each other. Pin the edges in place and sew it along 1 centimeter in from the edge. At this point, your lining back piece should be free. We will sew that piece using the burrito method. Without including the lining back piece, start rolling from the folded side towards where the raw edge is. Continue rolling until there is 4-5 cm left towards the other edge. Now align the unsewn edge of the back piece with the exposed edge of the zippered rectangle so that the burrito part is sandwiched in between. Pin the edges in place and sew it along 1 cm in from the edge. Pull out the rolled part from any of the open sides. After this part is completed, you will have a round piece in your hand. Pin the 2 layers together, aligning all edges and notches. Then stitch along both top and bottom sides. For the handle piece, fold it lengthwise with the right sides facing each other, aligning the long edges. Sew along this edge with a 1 cm seam allowance. Cut off the excess seam allowance. Then, turn the handle right side out. Press with your iron. You will now use little rectangle part on the pattern to mark the placement on the top piece of the bag and sew it in place as indicated. Simply cut out the rectangle from the piece and remove it. Then place the pattern piece on your fabric to transfer the markings. Place the handle using the notches on the top piece and pin the handle edges to the short edges of the fabric. After doing this, secure the handle to the top piece at the marked spots, ensuring it forms a centered looped handle. Sew along those pinned places to fix the handle. After fixing the handle, it is time to sew the main fabric top piece with the top piece lining. Turn the main fabric top wrong side up. The wrong side of the lining and the top piece should face each other. Make sure you match the notches as well and sew along the entire perimeter. Similarly, for the bottom piece, sew the main fabric piece with the lining piece, with their wrong sides matching each other. cover the edges, we will sew the bias tape. Wrap it around the bag to determine its required length. I'm using a double-folded bias tape that measures 4 cm wide when fully unfolded. If you are making your bias tape from scratch, it should also be this width. Center the notch on the back piece and mark around 6 cm section. Leave a couple of centimeter tail from the end of the bias tape and start pinning the tape from the marking to the right of the center notch. Align the raw edge of the tape with the raw edge of the fabric. The right side of the binding should face the right side of the lining. Finish pinning at the other marking. Carefully sew along the edge, maintaining a 1 cm seam allowance. Start sewing from where you pinned and finish at the other pin. Remove the pins and place the bias tape over the notch in the middle and place the bias tape over the notch in the middle and mark the point on the bias tape where it aligns and overlaps with the notch. Pin where you marked on both sides of the bias tape. Sew along this line. As you can see, the right side of the bias tape touches the lining and is neither tight nor loose. It fits perfectly around the bag. Cut off the excess bias tape, leaving a 1 cm seam allowance. Open the seam allowances apart, pin and sew it in place. Sew the bias tape on the other side using the same methods. Align the center notch of the back piece along with the seam lines formed where the back piece is sewn, with the 3 notches on one long edge of the bottom piece. Mesh the middle notches and mesh the other 2 side notches with the both seam lines. I have already sewn the top piece with the handle, but the method is exactly the same for the bottom piece. So we'll attach the bottom piece together. Pin the bottom piece to the edge of the zippered side rectangle, right sides together. Match all the notches on each side and pin them in place. To help align the corners more easily, you can make small snips within the seam allowance. This will allow the fabric to fit and curve more smoothly into place. Now stitch all around along the seam allowance. You can trim the edge very slightly to turn the binding more easily. Pull the bias tape up along the stitched fold and flip it over to the other side. Adjust the bias tape on the other side so that it covers the stitching and pin it in place. Sew the whole perimeter just around 2 mm from the edge of the bias tape. I like to use a slightly longer stitch for this top stitching. And that's it. Your bag is complete. Sewing bias tape can take a bit of patience, but the clean and professional finish it gives is definitely worth the effort. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you had as much fun as I did putting together this stylish vanity bag. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more sewing tutorials and tips. Don't forget, you can find the pattern for this vanity bag and many others in my Etsy shop. Just check out the link in the description below. I'd love to see your creations, so feel free to tag me on Instagram and use the hashtag #NesliePatterns. Thanks again for your support, and I can't wait to see you in the next video. Until then, happy sewing!